Thank you.
So in any transaction, you have two sort of time that you can tell the time to your smart contract or to the blockchain itself as well. In this, I mean, in Apollo, in this library, it is like that. But if I want to show you in the Cardano CLI, in Cardano CLI, we have two options called, where is Cardano CLI help, and then grep invalid. So in Cardano CLI, or I mean, in any transaction building, you have two way of telling time to your transaction, especially your smart contract. And you might guys heard these terms of determinism, deterministic, all this thing, like, everything has to be exact, no side effect, all this thing. But the time is not that much of determinacy, right? So how the hell we tell to a smart contract, this is the exact time. And again, since all these start contract, transaction building, everything happens before the submission, aka off chain, aka we have no idea what's going on. But once it is submitted, we know what's going on, like the terms of the state. So the idea is actually you need to put this a slot number, and by a slot number, let me see that do I have my Cardano node running? Is it running or not? Just stuck. I think it is running, but just having some issue. So the slot number right now in the yeah, it is running. Slot number right now, because it can be just changed, I mean, overnight, if all the nodes agree. It's just 1 second. So 1 second, one slide, one slot, that's all. So if I just query tip this guy, tip, you can see, okay, this is the block, this is the epoch era, and this guy. So this is the number. This is the, but what does this mean? It means how many seconds passed from the beginning of the Pepprod blockchain. Now the hell we know that it's the beginning. So there is this file called protocol parameters, or the I mean for the Babbage that we look for. And based on that, there is some calculation. So once you said that it is invalid before, invalid hereafter, before your block getting produced, or if it was produced, you are telling your transaction should sit where exactly? Because this slot is kind of a tag. It is like something like a badge on a block. So once a block going to be produced, it's going to have a very deterministic number. And once you want to submit your transaction, you are going to say, this transaction can be part of this block. It has to be part of block after this number, after this tag, or it has to be before this tag, before this number. So time is like that. But here's the issue. The issue is once you said, hey, for example, I want to go invalid here after, which means the transaction or the transaction is invalid here from this number and any number above that. So this transaction must be submitted before this number, aka it must be included in a block that have lower number as, or the tag or something. But the problem is is something that I can show you. So here is set TTL in Apollo is actually, we call it time to leave, but TTL is, I believe, invalid before, I think. So if we say, okay, I'm just saying that 900 seconds. So this transaction would have a live as well, a live expiration date or time. And 900 is a number that actually I asked. I mean, it was around 600. It was my test, but I asked Eduardo, who is one of the founder of Dex Hunter. He said 900 is a fine number, and this is the sweetest spot for that. But 900 means if I run this code, oh, sorry. If I run this code, and if I try to interact with this code and build a transaction and receive that transaction, which I can show you here. Let me bring my wallet, testnet wallet as well. So this is it is just a simple UI just for interacting with that contract, building a transaction. But I just want to point out this. So if I want to just run that transaction, it doesn't matter, but I just want to show you what that transaction doesn't matter now. I just want to show you this. So if I get that, do I get that this guy? No, I don't. I should do with another transaction because this transaction was problematic. Sorry. So let me go and use this guy. And should be something of this. And let's see, is it running still? Yep. And let me run this thing again. Oh, 44. Oh, I just how did I change it? Okay, so I got this guy, and as you can see in the wallet, you might see there is this validation. This time is ticking. So it would be kind of again hard to know when your user signed this. And once that user signed, you have to get an exact number, calculated, all this thing. But the thing is, we kind of not sure once I submit this, when this is going to be included on the blockchain. Because once I sign this, once the user sign this goes to a mempool. And we are not sure when that transaction will go from mempool and sit on the blockchain.
And to jump in there real quick, so that is actually exactly the time I want to measure. So to get a little bit more in detail about the script or the tool I want to write or I need to write is we want to measure the average time it takes for an average transaction that is submitted on a local node for it to be included in any block on the chain. So part of that is, well, I'm part of a team in the foundation that tries to measure block propagation on the chain, and with that we thought of, well, it would be very interesting to understand how much congestion there is in the network at any given time, and kind of provide a view, sort of just very generic view or data for others to measure the current congestion of the network. So I want to write something that will regularly create a transaction, and that will regularly create that transaction with a metadata which holds the timestamp that this transaction is submitted to a local node. And then you could just look at the chain and look at that specific transaction and see when it was submitted to a local node, and then have on chain the data when it was actually adopted on any given block. And then you could measure the time it takes for that transaction on average to be after it has been submitted to a local node until it has actually added to the chain, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, what you're saying is very interesting, and I need to look into that and probably just need to play around with that. I probably can't explain it all too well because I'm more or less just the guy that is going to write this, not the guy that has came up with the idea.
No, it's fine. But if I understood it, I mean, or I didn't understood totally sure. But if I understood that correctly, I think these two tools can help you. One is a snake, and a snake is event-driven tool for trailing the Cardano blockchain. So that thing you were saying about the submission is an event. So this tool also coming from Gimbalabs, all written in Go and use Goroboros in behind the scene. But basically, you can create customized event and see at okay, this event happened and what exact time was that, and get the information. For example, for the Cardano for Andamio, we came up with another repo, I mean another project called Andamio Andamio Indexer. Let me open another page window. So in Andamio Indexer, we didn't use a snake directly, but we just use a snake code to create our own customized indexer. And that customized indexer will look into some transaction addresses, and if it is submitted, how many block has passed, confirmation, all these things, and it provides its datum. So it can provide its datum, metadata, any information. It is possible. You guys can check it out. So I think that tool would be really helpful for you to get the idea how event-driven tool needs to be written and talk to Cardano blockchain, especially regard to serialization and deserialization of the ledger data to any schema. And
So
the other thing, go ahead, sorry.
no, I just wanted to say that so Snake would kind of show some code examples how to integrate with Goroboros, right? Because I need to.
A Snake is the tool. It is a full-fledged working tool. But if you look into the code, if you want to create your customized event-driven, time-sensitive event-driven tool, you might need to use some of this code, and you don't need to start from scratch. That was
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Got it. Okay.
And
yes.
let me share this link in the chat before going to the other repo. So the other is another tool called, I mean, again, coming from Blink Labs. Sorry, NView, which is a TUI for monitoring Cardano node. And it has kind of a simple look. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's not that much of, user friendly. It's like a developer friendly kind of stuff. But as you can see, it reads the current information and the current state of the whole node or blockchain. So why you might need this guy in your code? Because what you were saying, this is something happens on the blockchain. So once things are inside the blockchain, you get some news out of it. Okay, event happened, you will know. But what you were saying is more like mempool monitor. So you need to know a transaction goes to that quote unquote limbo state, that it is not there, it is there somehow, it is between them. And monitoring that mempool, we don't have a tool right now for that. I mean, there were and are several proposals to do that, especially on Fall 11, but we yet to see. But the closest tool that I've known to do that is NView. I don't
Sorry.
know, Ara is here. Maybe they are working on a tool for mempool monitoring. I don't know. Have you guys worked on that? Or Chris is not here, but
We do not have, we don't have anything in the works right now that is specifically meant for mempool monitoring.
okay.
As you said, NView is probably the best thing. We've got an example for using the TX monitor or the local TX monitor protocol in Goroboro's starter kit, but all that does is just dump a list of transactions from a node. We don't have anything that's more full featured than that. That's specifically for mempool monitoring.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's just a lot of code to digest. So
I see, I know. But at least the good thing is, I mean, this is my experience. I think you guys are programmer, and I think this was the kind of common and mutual experience. Once we start to do a project or code, we really get our hands or head around that language. Like reading the syntax, documentation, videos, class, good, great, but it is not that much of things that we feel, okay, I know, I kind of have a junior at least level of this language. So what I kind of suggest would be that the project you are working is great, and it is not, I mean, as far as I know, as far as people present here, we don't have a tool for that. So we need a tool especially for that purpose you built. Of course, you want to customize it and sorry, and make a project and product around it, but we don't have. But we have several tools that if you combine these things, eventually you will have that tool you need. And these
yeah,
tools can help you. Of course, the
This tool,
Golang,
sorry.
Snake, and Vue. Let me share all these things as well. NVU. Okay. Why it is? And by doing that, by monitoring, you will have the great idea of that timing. But how precise it would be, again, Chris is not here, but if he was, he would have much greater insight of that time. And I don't know, Aurora, do you have experience? I think you have good experience with time with Cardano as well. Do you have any insight
Yes.
and software
Time.
maybe you want to share?
I mean, as you'd said before, time is kind of hand wavy on Cardano. There is no fixed like correct time across the network. It's all based on block slots, and so the time on the network only really moves forward when a new block is minted and it's in a particular slot, and that's how everything agrees on what time it is on the blockchain. But it is because of the time it takes between blocks. Like it's on average 20 seconds, and on mainnet you will pretty much get one once every 20 seconds. But like if you look at like a network like Preview or Preprod, you can go 5 minutes without creating a block. I was doing a test on Preview the other day with submitting a transaction, waiting for it to come through, and I thought I'd actually broken something because like it wasn't coming through. I just had to wait 3.5 minutes for the next block to be created in the Preview network to actually see the transaction come through. So time on Cardano is hand wavy, and even with mainnet, even with that 20-second average between blocks, your resolution is going to be really low for actual propagation time. It's like you can like submit a transaction and oh, it shows up in 21 seconds. Well, does that mean it actually took 20 seconds to propagate across the network, or was it sitting in everyone's mempool just waiting for the next block to be created? And so there's a lot of uncertainty around that, and that you can't get much visibility into. Like you can monitor mempools around the network if you have nodes deployed around the network, and you can see when a transaction shows up in your local mempool. But you really have no visibility into what's happening or any timing after that until the block is minted.
I see. Well, I mean, part of this is also just an exercise for me to get into the topic itself, right? So
Yeah.
being not as precise in, let's say, the first iteration is okay, as long as I mean, as I said earlier, I'm very early in actually getting my hands dirty with this. So yeah,
But
which is
I just wanted to make you disappointed as before I started, or at least some
yeah, no, it's fine. No, it's fine.
So you don't
Yeah.
get surprised, but it is. I want to again encourage you as well. It is a really a thing that many people needs, many project needs, and they haven't started to work on it. As I said, there are some projects, proposal, promise of doing that, but who knows? They are going to be open source, so in the language that you or anyone or most people are familiar or comfortable with. We have no idea. We don't know. So it is a place that you can really put your project and idea, and it won't be yet another DEX or yet another something. It would be definitely genuine and something, and actually many DEX would need, and of course aggregator as well, for example DEX Hunter, but I personally believe they've done it for themselves, at least in some sort, especially the two projects, the Genius Yield and Dex Hunter. But how they've done it, I don't know, especially regards to Dex Hunter. If you guys remember, the Dex Hunter had some drama around it that they were saying, oh, it is, they've came up with customized mempool, customized Cardano node, and they are checking, touching all these things. And the reason was it wasn't available. The thing they wanted to, the information that wanted to for batching, all these things even. So yeah, I mean, it is challenging, it is hard. I mean, of course, but Cardano is hard. I mean, but it is really demanding. Like, I mean, it would be demanded by many projects, and they would love to have that tool or product or service.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to take, let's say, how you say that, bite off more than I can chew.
Yep.
So I think the initial idea is really simple in the sense that we want to create these transactions, and then the transactions themselves would kind of be the data that can then be used by anyone that has access to the chain. So the idea is to create these transactions, and the transactions hold the, say, Unix timestamp of the moment they were submitted to any given local node, and that's kind of the first idea. And however, I mean, it's interesting what you say about mempool monitoring, and I think it obviously can evolve out of this. But in the initial, my current, say, first goal is just to create one transaction, and then provide the metadata in that transaction of the moment it was submitted to a node. And then you can at least time, or at least see the difference between the submission of the transaction and then the adoption of the transaction in a given block. But yeah, I mean, while you are talking, I do get quite a few other ideas of what you can do with this. I mean, if
Great. So I didn't make you that much of disappointed. Like you're
no,
still
not at all.
Great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So And this is not, I mean, I
That's
would probably have to mention, this is not something personal from me. It is part of so I work for the foundation, and I'm working with the team so we produced a tool, or we are running a tool actually, that measures the block propagation of the network. So we have a bunch of nodes all over the world, and we parse the log. Currently, I would love to rewrite that in Go as well, but that's another undertaking. Currently, it's written in Python, and it just tails the node's log file, and from that, it just sees what's happening in a local node. And once a local node adopts a block, it parses the times when that block was locally adopted, and then we run this, as I said, over many relays, 15 or so, and with that information we can see when we can see when any given block is reached by other peers in the network, and then make say how long it took for any given block to reach, let's say, 95% of the network and stuff like that. And that's how this idea came about, that we want to measure the kind of the same thing for the transactions. And then while you were talking, I was thinking actually that could be part of the same tool running on a local node that would also then measure, create the transaction has its own difficulties, because you would need to pay the fees, right? So it would just cost money. So no one would just want to create a transaction every 20 minutes or something, just for the fun of creating transactions, right? But yeah, I mean, and that's actually, I mean, why I was joining these calls, because I thought, well, if anything, I want to write this in Go, and then obviously I would need to get my head around Goroboros and all the other tooling. So I'm very thankful for that, and I mean, it's going to take me some time, I guess, but it's okay. I mean.
Indeed, no problem. But the thing is, if I remember correctly, again, Rory is here. I believe Foundation contact Blink Lab in order to build the Cardano node in Go. I mean,
I am not sure about that. I mean, the foundation has about 100 people, so that might very well be. Then I'm just not aware of it. I don't know.
No, this work has been independent. We've only been contracted for one project by the Cardano Foundation, and that was Cardano Up, which we just recently released.
Okay.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Cardano and Go, Cardano and Go, definitely. That would be something. But my question would be, Manuel, do you think we need to add something to the ledger as well? Like some sort of soft fork stuff needs to happen in order to have that worldwide node, or no? With current structure, especially the ledger data structure, we can have that. We need some sort of soft fork.
Well, as far as I understand it, no. I think again, so as far as I understand it, no. You can attach additional data to a given transaction, and that is for the initial, and that is enough for the current idea of this, say, transaction monitoring thing. However, what you were alluding to in the, let's say, more general transaction monitoring thing, that I don't think it would be needed to add something to the ledger, but you would have to have something that is running either within the node or at least alongside the nodes that talks to each other and kind of talks about, hey, I have this stuff in my mempool, what do you have, and stuff like that, right? So, but that is probably a way above my understanding of the Cardano node or the Cardano Ouroboros intricate details. So
So what you
Yeah.
describe is actually very possible. I mean, it would be possible to create a lightweight agent that runs alongside Cardano node that periodically queries its mempool using the local TX monitor protocol and then submits information about those transactions or whatever it finds to some central location. Now, how many node operators are you going to get to actually run this agent? I don't know, but writing it would be pretty easy. It's
And we could,
the
I mean, as a foundation, we could run these nodes ourselves. So we do that already for the block propagation monitoring stuff, and we could use the same nodes to do what you just said, right? So ask every
Sure.
node for the and kind of use that infrastructure to generate the data and then provide the data to the community as a as a foundation service, so to speak. But again, I mean, I should add there, I'm not any, let's say, significant position in the foundation. I'm just one of the engineers, so having fun with Go and Cardano. So.
It's cool. It's okay. It's fine. No. I'm happy that we are here. Sure, we have ideas, we have tools, and well, Cardano Foundation to me is kind of is like a hub. Like there are other projects that other engineers go and visit. Like for example, I work in a certification working group, which was initiated by IOG. Now it is part of Intersex. So again, one Cardano Foundation engineer comes there, and we talk about certification and security, especially the vulnerability, how to handle it, and all these things. Which actually we came up with this CIP. I mean, the idea of the draft of that CIP. So let me show you. But here I was in the Cardano Foundation CIP. I was looking that did anyone uh, publish or made a CIP regards to time or not? But certification working group IOG, which is going to be migrated, I mean, this repo to Intersec. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. But we have something called, I mean, I worked, I was the author, kind of, Cardano Threat Intelligence. And the idea was a standardization and the categorization of vulnerability and weaknesses of in whole Cardano ecosystem. And we came up with, where is the rendered version? We came up with standards and an identifier for each vulnerability. Let me show you might guys want to read it. So the idea was there is this standardization, how to standardize, how to do it. Like we have this CTI identifier, which, for example, like CTI 2021 ADA 11.1 is, for example, reentrancy, vulnerability in politistic smart contract, or MKD. These are the parallel chain, I mean, the kind of the three letters of the chains or parallel chains or side chains. And then there is this thing, and the thing actually was related to Cardano Foundation, which because of this migration, all this IOGS stuff, we have stopped to contact you guys, but things are again starting happening, and communication is CTI Watchdogs. It is a group of experts responsible for managing the Cardano threat intelligence, gathering the information, monitoring all this thing, and of course, disclosure of these things as well. So Cardano Foundation is multi-dimensional and multi-sided organization. You know, I mean, we from that group contacted to the security part. You are coming from like a node and like a ledger part kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't expect you or anyone to know everything from that organization. But the idea was contacting IOG first. Then we thought, no, it could be Cardano Foundation, but still we are not sure. we might then need to intersect to decide who should be responsible of threat intelligence in Cardano. But yeah, but again, thank you for your insight, and we wish you great luck to have that.
Yeah, thank you. I will probably join these calls more often and have tons of questions to you guys. So,
Sure.
but that's once I have
Sure.
done more homework and kind of have a more concrete, let's say, more concrete problem that I can actually define. But again, I was kind of held off from the holiday over the last week, so
No problem, no problem. I mean, we developers need so much, vacation, and
yeah,
we easily get burned out. Easy. So
true.
no problem at all. And this tool, this is the tool Aura was talking, TX Type, which is again kind of closest to the mempool display tool for. So this might be another that you might be interested, like how the code especially. And once you
Yes.
learn the code, I mean, this is the beauty of Golang. It doesn't allow developers to kind of become very creative at their coding style and all these syntaxes. So once you learn the syntaxes and the style of the code and the structure, everywhere, it doesn't matter the code written by the most senior Golang developer or the most new to the Golang, all of them would be same, exactly same. So once you have that level of like understanding of the language, all this code would be much clear, and you would have a good time of understanding. But if you didn't, if you have some issues, not just you, I'm just referring to everyone else. If you guys read some of this code, the tools, well, we have the members from Clamps here, and
Yeah.
of course from Apollo. So you guys can ask your question. This is a Golang Go Cardano session. It's not necessarily has to be Andamio CLI, but Andamio
Yeah.
CLI can be a part of it because we are written it we are written it with Go.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, what you're saying is what I heard about Go, and which really got me interested in actually learning Go. And after a few years in Python, I thought it, and that's I think one of the beauties of Go, right? I mean that there is not so many ways that you would do things in Go, and then you also, well, there's tons of other good reasons for using Go in nowadays, but yeah.
Yeah. Like for example, you have one loop. That's all.
Yeah,
You have
right.
just one loop, but you can do everything. A while loop, normal loop, and everything you want. Even recursion. It doesn't have to be. But for example, in Haskell, well, let me show you some Haskell. Do I have some Haskell here? No. In Haskell, let me just show an example of that how things can become crazy. And actually, we had this idea of creating this kind of contract and publish it on the, for example, let me go to the some governance and like pooling, not pooling, yeah. So a contract can be really crazy in Haskell because it gives this ability for user to become creative, or I mean, user developers creative.
Mm.
And how is that? Like, okay, I can now write a function which is let's go with this this guy, this 2, and then 3, and let's go with some nice one as well. And then it would be it receive integers, and it returns integers for its 6. And then let me copy this guy, put it here, and it accepts an int, and just, well, int multiply 2. And I think I cannot start with this guy, but let me see which one I can start. No, not with this one either. Assign this guy. Nope. But I can go with some really crazy stuff. I was able to do it somehow before, but now I don't.
You mean for the naming of the function itself, or?
The naming of function itself, it can be something like that.
Okay.
But the thing is, just if you want to write this down, let me. So for writing one simple function, for example, let me go for it. This is a function that can be written in as crazy as it is at this name. But the writing of that function, which is, for example, this is a function. I know it sounds weird. It looks complex, but this can be write in so many different ways and in so many different styles. Like for example, this is a function that creates a list. It does do something, and at the end of the day, it returns a list. So this is a way, and if I just do this, this is another way. It is possible. It's acceptable. This is acceptable, and of course, this is acceptable as well. So this style of writing is all acceptable, whereas in Go, it is not. So you cannot write your if in different way, putting a condition in next line and doing the curly bracket another. No, it has to follow one a specific path or a specific style of writing the code. And for that if, for this, for example, recreating this list, you have only one way, only one. But here in the, especially Haskell, like I have these conditions. I can go with switch case. I can go with so many different conditional statement. Doesn't have to be this. Does that have any effect on the computation? Of course. And that's another issue. So in Go, after 2 months, 3 months, this was my experience actually, but I've asked and read many things. It was similar. After 3 months, after writing, you write 99 or okay, 90% of your code as most efficient as much as possible, because there is no other way of writing that code. So your code already is most efficient. You can compare it with hash table. You just try to write, if you want to examine your level of knowledge, try to write a hash table in different languages. If you want to do it in Go, after 3 months, you write a hash table, which is really good. The performance, the style, the code, clean, everything. You want to do it with Rust, at least 2 years. Haskell, well, I don't know when.
10 years maybe. Yeah, I always felt very intimidated by Haskell. I remember back in university, but I don't know. It's probably a fantastic language once you get your head around, but
Indeed.
yeah, I never reached that point, so I eventually just didn't
It is a
continue.
great language to open your brain and actually hurt your brain in different that you've never experienced if you had education, especially in computer science. Because the whole paradigm of this language is quite different than any other language. It's really math-based, so it's help you to think everything in math, which is everything is value of function. There is only like a 30. Everything's value or function. Here in Haskell, everything's value of function. Every single thing you guys see here is function. These guys, this is a function. This is a function. Like everything's function or value. Even the compiler works like that. Because the math again essentially is just function or value. And expressiveness, like you have to explain expressive. And in the age of AI, actually a language like Haskell really helps you. It really helps you to talk to your computer instead of writing something that you have not, especially with high-level language like with Python or JavaScript. If you write in C, you have much more sense of how things works. But in the age of AI, of prompt engineering, prompt programming, actually Haskell is the best guy. You just try to talk, and how you talk is your code exactly. So yeah, it has its own merits and perks, but it is difficult for itself.
Yeah, but thank you for all the other details and info. So that's probably more food for thought for me to work through for the next weeks.
Great. Well, hope to see some of the fruits of this thought and idea next week or in coming
Yeah,
weeks.
well, yeah, maybe not next week because I'm still on holiday.
Sure.
Week.
I mean, of course. I mean, I don't want to rush you and destroy your holiday. I don't know.
But you definitely got me excited into jumping into it again. So that's for
Great.
sure.
Great. So I think we are reaching to the end of this session. Thank you for everyone to be again here. Thank you, Aurora, for all your insights. And of course, everyone here are welcome to have all same conversation. If you have any projects or any idea you want to share, you want help with, feel free to do it. You can find people or colleague or like-minded people to do or to start your project as well, like we did. And that was kind of one of the main purpose of running this session, to start, gather, and create a space for community. Of course, go focus, but that was the idea. But again, thank you for having this time with us, and hope to see you again next week. Take care.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks
Take care.
a lot.
Goodbye. Thank you, Sebastian. Goodbye.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Goodbye.